Hello everybody, welcome to another daily dose of your gaming news and all that good stuff. And before I start, just to let you know, I'm all over the place here, and I publish everything on Rumble. So let's get started. There seems to be that the DirectX 12 API is getting like a new GPU upload, heaps and non-normalized sampling, blah 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 blah. Basically, what it means is um, now the CPU can access basically the VRAM of the GPU. Usually it's something that it didn't happen usually, and all the information that needed to some information that needed to go through the VRAM of the GPU had to be copied first on the RAM of the system. Now they can be shared. Of course, this has to be manually done, for example, on gaming stuff. And this is one of the reasons, because I think there was already coming like a roadmap. I think this is why, at least in my point of view, in my opinion, that the fact that NVIDIA GPUs not having VRAM, this is going to be a huge thing, because it will not age well, even though that it's the supposedly the processors that needed to use this kind of thing, it will be way faster because the PCI Express lanes, I think the bandwidth it's kind of more faster, and the fact that is one less step from the information to go to the through the RAM of the system. The fact that if there is, like, for example, or gaming or other applications that need a huge amounts of VRAM from the GPU, the fact that the NVIDIA GPUs are way deficient on VRAM, at least like the mid to lower tiers. For example, in this later 40 series, even the 4080, it's on the limits for what kind of product it is. When you start seeing 8 gigabytes, 12 gigabytes in the 4070 I don't think this thing will save even the 4070 in terms of performance and stuttering and all that issues that we've been seeing lately in these games that they're being launched. And I think this is also one of the main reasons that at the moment, at least I'm not an insider, of course, that's why AMD has always a huge amounts of VRAM on the GPUs, because it allows to have like kind of a buffering for the GPU to age better than the NVIDIA ones. And also, I think, of course, this is always in a pipeline of the Direct 12 in terms of how the API handles things, especially more on gaming. And I think this is going to, take more advantage of the fact that AMD GPUs have more VRAM, and I think it will have a huge advantage regarding the NVIDIA GPUs. At least is my perception from what I read everything. I will leave a link in the description of the articles as usual. But this is, I think, my main takeaway. I think this will benefit a lot the AMD GPUs, even though they can bring a short boost when this is fully implemented on NVIDIA GPUs, because of how the usually data is processed through the DRAM through the system. It's one less step on bringing the information to the monitor. But yeah, I think this is overall that's why a lot of people, you see a lot of people, even if they are not specifically telling you about this is why we usually say that VRAM is very important on GPUs, more quantity, even though if it is not, the memory itself is not an X version or non-X version like the DDR6 from the AMD, it's not an X version, so it's not that quicker. It has more of it and can be utilized better to a certain extent. But yeah, this is the main takeaway from this new update for the DirectX 12. We're seeing a lot now, a lot of announcements regarding AMD A620 chip motherboards. I saw from now we got the ASUS with the tough stuff. We got MSI, we got Gigabyte and ASRox. I think at least these four ones. It's like the main ones, the ones that can manage to build, they usually bring two or three variants of these motherboards, and the ones that I managed to check like the exact pricing, at least in terms of listings in Europe, it's from the Asus ones. Overall, in terms of specs, most of them, the cheaper ones, usually only have like one channel for DDR5, which is more than good enough for basic stuff. And usually, if you with this AM5 platform, if you occupy all the DDR channels, you are not getting, in terms of performance of gaming, you will not get any advantage on it, because it will start, to a certain extent, it will start overloading the memory chip for the controller that manages the DDR thing. In terms of production, it's okay. The more memory, the better, even though the performance can take a little bit of a hit. It doesn't matter, because usually it's more than enough. It's more about the quantity than the speed of the memory itself. As you can see, some tough coming. I think this one is like the tough high-end one, which is the 8 plus Wi-Fi. You got like 4 SATAs here. You manage to get at least, this is the AM variant, so the micro micro ATX. You get at least one for graphic, the PCI slot. You got some 2 for PCI 4 Express, whatever this is called, and then you have like 2 M.MVs. Usually I support at least for 2 free USBs 3.2 version, whatever it is, I never know, and other 4 at least. So in total, like 4 USBs in the back side, then more support for the front side, at least for one connector for USB 3 point something and USB 2.0, and it's more than enough for a budget building. It's better than the previous AM4 platform. And the prices here, I know I saw it's a little bit expensive from the Asus side, but it's in euros, and the economy in Europe is not the best one. I think it's the top tier is like 149 euros, and of course this is a value already with VAT. I don't think in the article, I saw in the article somewhere that it has like the prices here for the Asus ones. It's 149 for the top tier thing, and 149, and there is another one around 119 or something like that, give or take. It's not the best pricing, even though translated to dollars it's cheaper to a certain point, but I hope that in other markets, at least in Gigabyte and MSI, can bring more competitive prices, because this is basically more expensive than a cheaper 650 motherboard, which have more features in the base models than this one, I think, if I'm not mistaken, from what I can recall on memory. But yeah, we will see how it goes regarding pricing. They are very good. They are very budget-like, but for example, for basic gaming or budget gaming, and for non-X CPUs and even the 3D cache ones, it's more than good enough. And also, sorry, and even for very light production works, I think it's more than enough. This kind of cheaper chips from the motherboards in an AM5 systems. I remember did something regarding this thing, regarding a statement from a Gigabyte representative regarding new AMD CPUs being launched by the end of the year, and I said at the time that might be most probably like a miscommunication or some misinterpretation of something, and of course they refute any statement regarding that the AMD Ryzen 8000 will be launching this year. It didn't make any sense. If they are being launched, I think probably they'll be announced next year to launch, maybe late next year, because the cycling product doesn't make sense. They just are starting to finish launching we're still being seeing the 7800 X3D version in few days, so just launching after the end of the year, it's going to be probably a mistake on this kind of things. As you can see, Zen 5, which is the 8001's 2024, and I think it's going to only be announcing and then maybe coming later next year, probably. But yeah, not going to spend much time here. There is like an updated thing. I mean, I remember yesterday, I think, the DLSS thing for Forza Ryzen was a mess. It's kind of a mess regardless, but there were some settings that they managed to this one AM5 I don't know what it is, something here, turning off, and basically it improved at least the feel of the game, but you don't see a lot of more improvements in terms of FPS and everything, but the game supposedly feels less feels more responsive. It's the best way I can describe to you in a racing game. It improved a little bit, but as I told you, DLSS 3 with frame generation, this is going to be a mess. It's just a way for NVIDIA to basically to sell you the technology itself, with weaker, to a certain point, to some weaker GPUs and weaker and more expensive GPUs for the specs they have. We got some news. This is like yesterday they announced on Twitter and everywhere that we are going to get news regarding the expansion Phantom Liberty in June. That's the only thing that they said. At least they are taking their time. I think even with I think we have another news. Yeah, we have. I will talk about it when we get there. But I think they are there. They learned a little bit from their mistake with the launch of this game, and now they're taking things with more caution and more patience, not trying to get the early quarterly earnings as fast as they can, because they notice that people, when they dedicate themselves in putting a good game, people will support it. It's basically what happened with Cyberpunk. It's a blatant example of this kind of thing. When you launch a buggy game, people start not buying it, and when they start improving it and bringing back a lot of the stuff that they didn't manage to do so, and the base game was playable, I'm not counting with mods of course, but when the game was more playable and improved in quality, people start buying the game. And with this, they managed to get the second best year, I think, the last year, because of basically the support of this game. It's from an earnings call somewhere that I saw this. So as you can see, I hope this gives a lesson to every developer and every publisher that take your time, don't overhype your freaking games, and when we put them out, put them in a decent state of play. Without this kind of mess that we kind of seeing most recently with The Last of Us, and to a certain extent Resident Evil 4 Remake. We got a showcase here. Again, these two articles from Fextralife, I always tell people, just go on them. They are very good. They have a lot of guides, wikis on mostly RPGs and these kind of games. And they managed to get around this Tainted Grail, the Fall of Avalon. This is like an early access game, but for all intents and purposes, seems a very good one. The feels are a little bit like when the Skyrim appeared, the way the gameplay goes, but it seems very, very good in terms of the mechanics and how you go about it, the game. This in early access is just like a kind of a small area in the overall scheme of things. But seems pretty good. The graphics are not that great, but the mechanic wise, if you're very interested on building a character as you want, I think supposedly this is going to be a very good one. I will leave a description here. Just watch the video to have a more condensed idea of what it is. And basically this is it. It's an early access game, but seems promising. Let's see how it goes. I was talking about the fact that supposedly it's CD Projekt learned a little bit the lessons from the launch of the Cyberpunk 2077, and they had this from the Molasses studio, supposedly The Witcher 4, which supposedly had it was having a lot of stuff with multiplayer, and I think they just basically stopped the development of this game and are reassessing what kind of game they want to go through, because CD Projekt is not very well known for having multiplayer stuff. The only one was the card game, the Gwent game. But yeah, I think they have to stop a little bit because I think they was trying to go with the flow with the multiplayer and the live service games, and as I said, this is not a good idea for all games. It's not a good idea to have a game as a live service because it's going to blow out in their faces. We saw that they trying to do with Ubisoft, to a certain extent EA, and other. For example, you can see some fatigues in Activision because they are basically all multiplayer games, live service games. People get fed up. People want most of the people want a good experience and have the most important thing if they want people hook up on the game is to have high values of replayability, and usually you can get it with mods support, which the CD Projekt always had like a huge mod support. You can take a huge example is The Witcher 3. It still sells. It's one of the biggest games sold. For example, you have Skyrim, even though it started like a buggy mess, but people after 11 years, they just continue to buy the game. They just put up the mods they want to play. You have like other kind of games like XCOM 2. The games are still sold because there were always people that were getting bored, and then they will, when get an age that they want to play a game, people then will always direct them to this kind of games for them to start, or like, because they are good. They are good experiences that you don't have especially if you lose the launch of the game, then you are always in a catch-up mode. It's trying to hook you up with a catch-up mode. It's like basically free-to-play games mechanics. You're always behind on the game itself, so you are incentivized to spend more money to try to catch up with how the content is released and catching up with other players. And that's not good. But yeah, I will wrap up with some gaming deals. Not much happening. I got some EA stuff. I managed to mention this yesterday, Mass Effect Legendary Edition, and got Mirror's Edge still. I suppose they are not remove this from the library because there was something they was telling they were going to shut down Mirror's Edge, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but still on sale here for $99. I'm not sure if Star Wars Fallen Order is still on the promotion. I didn't see here on the page, but I suppose it still is. I got here there is like this thing, London's Games Festival. We got Citizen Sleeper, which is like a tabletop RPG or whatever this is called. It seems interesting, good graphics. It's like the dice stuff. It's like tabletop. You just roll the dice, go around the thing. It seems pretty interesting. I have very positive reviews from a lot of people, and it's cheap. It's like $13. I didn't see any reviews for this, but I suppose it's very interesting how it goes. I always like this kind of games. At least you take your time. You don't stress too much about it. You only stress with the tests that you need to do. And lastly, I've got there is a giveaway in GOG, which is Deep Sky Derelicts. It's a kind of a Darkest Dungeon game, but with a sci-fi twist on it. It seems pretty good. I have decent reviews here. As you can see, it's very Darkest Dungeon in terms of animation and gameplay, but it's have a more like sci-fi vibe to it. I suppose it will play similar to it. Of course, should be have some variants here, but the base game it's on giveaway. I think it's we have 2 or 3 days to claim it. But yeah, I will leave it here. Not trying to make my video shorter, not to ramble too much, and I'm going to wrap up with my GoGetFundMe for me to upgrade my PC to get better and more content for my private clients, and of course, in my free spare time, continue to doing these daily videos with better quality. Getting some scripted content done because I need editing, not skills, but editing computer. Because as you can see, I ramble a lot. If I manage to make a video more condensed and more coherent, it will be better. and of course continuing my gameplay series, and possibly in the future doing some live streams regarding anything that I do. And what I said, guys, I hope you have a wonderful day. I will see you in the next one. Till then, Kunamy Master out.